Big man, what's poppin'?
Matt, I just don't think that our zoo is gonna work out.
But Tom, we've got all the best animals. Cardboard cow, living shoe, Big Bin Barry, Big Bin Gary, and who could forget Gorn?
I just think that the world's first zoo in a flat is a hazard, in both a personal security and financial security sense.
Tom, what if I was to tell you that we could have all of the fun of the zoo on the tabletop?
Wow! Ugh. Well, this'll keep me sated for now, but know that I hunger for real zoo. You can leave now. Okay, I know what you're thinking. This looks horrible and complicated and dry. But listen, I'm here to tell you that Ark Nova is basically Zoo Tycoon, the board game. Players start the game with a vast empty parking lot that they're trying to fill with these clumpy hexagonal enclosures, which they're then trying to fill with aminals. Now, animals are found in this huge deck of cards, and every single animal in the game needs its own size and type of enclosure. Maybe it needs to be next to water or rocks. Maybe it can go in a big reptile house or a petting zoo, or maybe you just need some research facilities first. And these little symbols and requirements are the core of Ark Nova, collecting a little bundle of codependencies that hang off each other like a beautiful cardboard Christmas tree. After all, you can't make a lizard without breaking a few eggs. That doesn't work at all. Why won't you just let me create?
But also within this deck, you have sponsor cards, the cards that aren't animals, but are the bits and bobs that allow you to support more animals within your zoo. Things like side entrances, school tours, a bird expert, each of which provide their own symbology, scoring bonuses, and consistent effects. And the interplay between these two kinds of cards means you're sort of already running a zoo. Birds, birds, birds! I've gone mad for these flying eggy creatures. Let's get up and close and personal with a petting zoo. Bring your boxing gloves. It's time to touch. Oh boy! I've reeled in a big one. My zoo is all about getting the chunkiest and the funkiest under one roof. While I've got a slow worm. And here's where Ark Nova is at its very best. Making your own space, filling it full of the things that you really like, and then carving your way through this complicated system, shopping for the benefits that then link everything in your zoo together like some sort of really healthy zoological small intestine. I was worried with Ark Nova that putting hexes onto a board and then just placing cards next to it might leave the game feeling a little flat in this sea of icons. But the reality is, in the early phases of the game, you have to work so hard to get these early building blocks of your zoo in place that you do have a sort of intimacy and a sort of connection, and it does make it feel like you're actually building something. The theme here just works so well to grease the wheels on the little trolley of play. New York Zoo and Barron Park, as great as they well and truly are, feel like Tetris garnished with some cute meeples, if you're lucky. Dinosaur World felt like a game where its most interesting systems were the ones that fell the flattest, and Terraforming Mars, whilst sharing mechanical similarities, doesn't nail that theme nearly as well as Ark Nova does. But it is, again, the dorky and scientific clashing with the jovial and fun here. There are little details on these cards that kind of bring the game to life, and the tacky little stock images do give the game a certain charm rather than working against it. You reckon? I think the stock image stuff is a bit naff.
I think that the little weird filter they've put on these cards is maybe the worst part of the whole game, but the little animals look great.
Well, everything has a slightly algorithmically Photoshop vibe, which is slightly unsettling. It's not terrible, but I would say bit naff.
Bit naff. It's a little bit deep dream. It's an odd one. But let's get away from this, frankly, not that relevant critique of the photoshopping in Ark Nova. How does this thing actually play? Well, it has this strange, free-flowing kind of round structure, soupy and odd, where people just take turns one after another until the end of the game is triggered. And what you do on your turn is plenty straightforward. You pick one of your 5 action cards and just do its action. And some of these are fairly straightforward. Animals to play animals, sponsors to play sponsors, cards to take more cards, and build to build more stuff. The only tricky one is the association action, which lets you do the meta aspects like scoring those criteria I mentioned earlier and connecting to other zoos and universities.
The twist here is that these actions you have in front of you are in this endlessly cycling queue. And every time you do one, it gets shuffled along to the start of the queue again. But the strength of the action that you're taking is determined by its position in the queue. If you let your cards card, for example, get all the way into the number 5 slot, you get to draw loads of cards. And if you get it stuck in the number 1 slot, you just get to draw a single card and then discard 1 card from your hand. It's not nearly as good as, I think you get like 4.
4 cards!
4 for 5, 10 for a pound. 4 for 5, 10 for a pound. Get your oats.
Who are you talking to?
I don't know, I've never been sure. And this system is crunchy and genius, keeping you constantly on the edge of having to make bad decisions. But if you're clever and strategic, allowing you to slowly shift things up and move them along so you're always playing the right tune at the right time. I feel like a DJ just explaining this. It's just an excellent, simple backbone for the game that helps support all of the other systems.
Right, because there is a bunch of other stuff in this game. You've got to think about the break track, the reputation track, the appeal and conservation tracks running separately round the edge of the board. You've got income to worry about, and that's linked to your appeal, and there's boosty action marker things. Maybe your animals are venomous, or poisonous, or hypnotic, or thieves, and sometimes you can upgrade your cards into more powerful versions, and sometimes you get a better income phase, or maybe just a neat one-time bonus by moving these little cubes onto conservation cards, which are endgame scoring. And you've also got your own endgame scoring card, but you can only choose that at space 10 on the conservation track. But before then, there's bonuses, and you get them on your board, but you can only take the action if you've got enough association workers, and maybe they need to get to work, so you need to build monorails on top. And each park has its own unique bonus, but first you need to have to choose your special power from the deck and choose which trees you're going to plant, and it all comes with a fried egg on top, and maybe a hash brown if you're lucky.
I don't think all of that is true.
I guess, but the egg is still appreciated.
Ark Nova is huge and gigantic, and I can see why that would be intimidating to some people. But it's mainly because of the fact that it has this sprawling, interconnected spider's web of systems, in which explaining just one of them is impossible. It's like a big cup of spaghetti in which just isolating one noodle involves crossing over hundreds of others in the process at the same time.
But analysing that spaghetti does feel fantastic. Going from a first game where I scored about 9 points to a second where I scored 30 and a third scoring 50 gives you that number go up juice as you gain mastery over the systems on show. But that's almost secondary to the real meat of the game. In a way, I would compare Ark Nova to like a feast for Odin, in that of course I'm invested in improving and getting a better score and optimizing each time, solving the puzzle that's in front of me, but ultimately what I'm enjoying is the moment-to-moment tactical puzzle. This little thing that you're building and owning and placing in front of you, constructing something that is yours and that you own. And that's what kind of leads me on to the comparison to something like Zoo Tycoon. When I was playing Zoo Tycoon, I was never invested in a high score, never invested in the competitive aspect. I just wanted to build a nice thing. This game is that. But I definitely understand that that might not be enough for some people. And quite frankly, I also have a couple of problems with Ark Nova's more competitive aspects. So let's talk about the elephant in the zoo.
You were so close!
I'll save you too much dramatic storytelling. Many of my games of Ark Nova have ended with explosions of points that are hard to see as anything but extreme luck. Most egregiously and recently, the elephant incident. Everyone had been crunching away so hard at their engines for the past couple of hours, and on the last turn, I managed to secure a big, chunky elephant that got me another final scoring card. Great, perfect, what a bonus. Except I drew the one card that perfectly and accidentally matched the whole engine I had been building that game that gave me a huge number of points completely by accident. Any other pull and I would have lost the game by a country mile. And this builds into Ark Nova's Achilles heel. The deck is here, a blessing and a curse, riches in one drawer and horror in another. It's a grit that throws competitive viability into dismay and frustration when one lucky draw can put you accidentally head and shoulders above the other players. And this is especially true when it comes to the scoring criteria cards. These shared goals demand certain icons, and if you can't get them, you can't score them. And because of this action queue system, it's not only a waste of actions to double dip on draws, but that action is demonstrably worse the second time round. The first few times you play, understanding the shape of this game is really exciting and satisfying. But it's diminishing returns, especially when you realise that maybe this game you're going to have to do an extra draw and, that draw didn't have anything that you wanted, meaning that action is effectively just wasted. And that bites especially hard when the way to win is basically just a race for points.
Oh, Tom, don't be so glum. Look, our zoo might not be competitively or financially or morally viable. But it's our zoo. We made it together. And the real friendship was the animals we made along the way.
Beautiful lion, sexy deer, sleepy turtle. There aren't any more. Oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I was too rustled by those wobbly point catapults that I'm missing the joy, the spark, those lovely animals and putting them neatly into their little cages.
Yeah, you're right. But the thing is, I don't think you are wrong. I think you're right. I think that this is a game that fundamentally asks a lot of you as players in terms of complexity and concentration. And that doesn't necessarily gel too well with the frankly breezy attitude you might need to imbue when it comes to counting up the scores.
Competitive gripes aside, I think that Ark Nova succeeds in being something that is a joy to play when you sit down to it, start to finish. It's packed with some truly dorky theme that brings it to life in the minds of the zoologically inclined. If the idea of a game where you build a scientifically managed zoo excites you, then you should probably give this game a try. It is great, and the fact that it isn't always competitively precise probably doesn't really matter to you. It's all about the kind of game you want to play.
And this is where my feelings on Ark Nova get a little muddy. It's a crunchy puzzle that I love to play around with, and it's really cool to see the publisher Capstone taking another of their deep dives into one nitty-gritty topic, in the same way that they did with Coffee Traders a few years ago. A game that ended up, for my taste, being a little too flat and just a bit too much, really. This matrix of beanie boondoggles that melted my brain, whereas this is just on the right side of being not quite too much. And I really like it, despite being, frankly, largely indifferent to most animals.
You're a monster.
I probably am, yes. And really, my main gripe with this game is perhaps absolutely ridiculous. Look, it's odd, but a strangely large number of my closest friends work in conservation. And because of that, I perhaps have a level of insight that leaves me feeling like, actually, this game might be a little too thin in terms of the theming, and certainly, for my money, a little too optimistic. For example, sponsorship in Ark Nova is simply a mechanic that gets you things. It never comes with any long-term cost. But I know too well that ecological and environmental projects are often sustained by a huge compromise. Yes, you can get the money you need to save 100 penguins, but it's from a company that just killed 1,000 dolphins. Heck, I've heard of one company that do some fantastic work with reforestation, but there's not much money in that, so they support some of that work by also producing military drones. But there's a tiny part of my brain that feels that by presenting itself as something grounded in realism, Ark Nova maybe slightly falls into the trap of being just a small part in this broader network of misinformation. It glosses over the political aspects of the industry while still paying lip service to so many of the little cogs and details around the edge of it. The end result is something that maybe comes across as if it's quite neutral, but I think is unknowingly actually overly optimistic. And that isn't a huge deal. Maybe not as much of a huge deal as I might have made it sound like it is, but it is a failure that I think quietly undermines the core premise of the whole theme. in a way that it still leaves the game. This game is solid. I like it a lot, but it stops me from being able to truly love it.
It is kind of a very specific niche Matt Lee's problem, though,
I mean,
right?
it's weird. It's a weird Venn diagram, and I'm not trying to frame it as anything other than that.
Like, I think that I get that, and I understand that, and I understand people who just have a problem with this game because it's about zoos. But I do think that the thing that's nice about this game about zoos, is that at least it's trying to show off things about conservation and preservation and what goes into like running a zoo in a practical way.
Thinking about animals a little bit more than maybe the let's just poke a panda. I think it's a step in the right direction.
Matt, I hate to cut you off, but I think the slow worm has just escaped.
Oh no, I can help.
Okay, great.
I can help.
Oh no.